What is up, guys? Rick Kackis here. Thank you so much for stopping by, and today we've got some exciting Destiny 2 news because Bungie just released a brand new trailer for Shadowkeep, showcasing some of the areas you're going to travel to and embark on with the new moon location coming with this new fall expansion. So let's break this trailer down because it's actually pretty substantial. Although it's only 30 seconds long, the entire point of it is to flash as many areas as possible within that short time frame. So there's a lot going on here. Firstly, I want to draw your attention to this shot here. Of course, we see the tower in the background. We've seen this since the very beginning in promotional images, and this really gives you a sense of scale when we see, obviously, the front of the tower, like far off in the distance, and we switch to this shot here of that same front entrance of the tower, and we see, like, that front entrance is huge. There's, it looks like a shrieker, hovering just before the door. There's areas off to the side, and there's just a lot of area going on here. And again, it gives you a great sense of scale for just actually how big the Shadowkeep really is. Next up, we have kind of a booby trap. We see some rotating pillars with spikes all over them. The top one is, of course, rotating, but the bottom one just below it is rotating as well, but not around in a circle. It's staying put. So this looks like something you're going to have to drop through, timing it right to avoid dying, perhaps jumping in the middle of your drop to, again, avoid those spiky pillars. This looks like a place where a lot of blueberries are going to die. Maybe in a strike, maybe in the dungeon. We don't know yet. Moving on from there, we've got some great more shots of the moon, and this one here is actually really interesting because this is the side of a cliff. Now, what is a massive cliff within the moon, at least that we know of? Well, the first thing I thought of was maybe this is a hellmouth, being able to descend down structures in the side of it rather than just jump straight down like you did in Crota's End. However, the scale is a little bit off. The hellmouth is quite a bit smaller. Perhaps they've redone it, resized it, perhaps it's changed with the new iteration in Destiny 2. This could also just be descending into one of the many massive scars of the moon. In a lot of pictures, even from Destiny 1, you see like huge cliffs and parts of the moon kind of ripped up and split open, and so this could be a way down to the center kind of the moon that's not the hellmouth. Moving on from there, we actually have a close-up of a wizard here, but it's the background I'm interested in. I mentioned the hellmouth. That looks like it could be a portion of it. But continuing from there, we see this pretty interesting screen, and there's two, it looks like, rituals going on. Of course, up front, we see a bunch of acolytes praying with their weapons in the air, and of course, the weird green goop in the center here of this platform. But off in the distance, we see what looks like the identical green goop coming up. So potentially, if you do one of these rituals, activate or deactivate this area, then you go and do another one, you'll have, a mini boss spawn or something like that. You could have some really cool stuff going on here. Next up, we saw one blueberry killer. Here is another one. You're gonna lose a lot of strike teammates if this is a strike or whatever activity you're doing to these rotating spiky pillars. And right after that, this screen here is super interesting because I recognize this right away as an area from the Summoning Pits strike in Destiny 1, where you go and kill the massive boss ogre. You can see the curvature off to the left side of the screenshot, and that is the hellmouth kind of going down, and you transverse your way through here, like past the acolyte, to the boss arena within that strike. So does this mean that strike is returning? Well, possibly. This was just actual structure within the moon that you could potentially go to regardless of whether or not you were in the strike. So likely just that area is returning, but interesting nonetheless. Next up, we have something again interesting. This is another big entranceway, but what is this too? Because we already saw in a previous screen the entranceway, or at least we thought, to the Tower of the Shadowkeep. Is this a different way in or something like that? I don't exactly know because these are two different places. Perhaps that tower is even bigger than we thought. Then we've got some pretty cool and definitely new areas here. And then we've got this, and this is super interesting because yet again we see a big bridge leading to a structure, but there's no tower. There's a big entranceway, as you can see at the very end, but there's no tower. Is this a destroyed version of the Shadowkeep tower? Is this screenshot from, like, after we beat the raid, after we beat a dungeon, after we beat the storyline, and we destroy the Shadowkeep? There's still areas you can go there, but the actual tower has fallen, perhaps. So this is a look at what the moon will look like after you've done that main storyline. Who the heck knows? It would be like a trailer showing off the destroyed Traveler from the Destiny 2 launch. Or this is just a secondary structure, you know, an older tower that got destroyed, whatever. But regardless, again, it's showcasing the size and scale of the moon, which seems absolutely massive. Next, we've been looking at a bunch of hive structures. This is not one of them. This is Fallen. We see an actual, fallen enemy, and then the background is clearly a fallen location, probably a fallen ship. Specifically, there's a fallen ship that we know is on the moon, because Taniks has no house. It's the fallen ketch from the Shadow Thief Strike. So, is that returning? Or, again, are we just going to have the area of that ketch returning? We can go to it, potentially do stuff in it without necessarily that same strike returning. Either way, interesting find. Then we've got a lot of different screens from locations that appear to be inside the Shadowkeep at certain points, like definitely this one and then this one. We then have a couple of screens that seem to show the actual tower up in the background, as you can see here, but the foreground of these images is a massive structure. So are you going to have to go through this big hive base, big hive city almost, before you get to the actual tower? That's what it appears to be. We then have an image here of an extra spooky Minotaur. So this is showcasing one of the new enemy types, the kind of darkness enemy types within the game. These appear to be somewhat like the Taken, where yes, it's still a Minotaur, but potentially they're going to have new abilities that the normal Minotaurs and of course the Taken Minotaurs don't have. And in the background, actually something interesting, that's a Vex gate. And this still appears to be on the moon. So the Vex could have some sort of presence here that, we didn't necessarily expect. We see some extra spooky floating bodies here. Don't know exactly what those are. Potentially those are Guardians lost to the darkness. And then the last screen of note ends with our old favorite, Eris Morn. And as you can see here, she is set up in this area. She's got some of her items around her. She is set up almost exactly like a planetary NPC like Sloan or Asher Mir would be. So she's basically the Petra of the moon, where you go to her in this or potentially rotating locations, get bounties, all of that stuff. At least that's what she appears to be set up as. Alright, and there you have it, a breakdown for the brand new Shadowkeep trailer. There's actually a lot in here, like it flashed a ton of different areas very quickly, and I'm definitely excited for this expansion. This trailer really does seem to showcase just how large the new moon area is. Guys, that's it for the video. I hope you enjoyed. Found this informative. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you guys want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at @RickKackis. That's linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.